Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. I am John Clark, and the Birds head out to the desert in Arizona. Jalen Hurts will make his first NFL start on the road. Let's bring in Mike Quick and Ike Reese. And guys, hey, he won his first NFL start. Eagles had 246 rushing yards, their most in 6 years. What did you like, Mike Quick, from what you saw from Jalen Hurts?
I liked a lot of things about him, guys. I thought that he was quick-triggered in the pocket. I thought he made good decisions. I thought he processed things very quickly. His movement and I think his speed kind of surprised the Saints because he was able to outrun them on a number of occasions where he was able to pick up first downs and keep his offense on the field, keep his offense moving. But back to the quick decisions. Let's look at this play. It's a fourth down situation, and he understands that the blitz is going to come. The protection on the right side is man protection, but he's got an overload on the left side. He understands that it's zero coverage, that he has to get the ball out quickly, and so it's then a matter of your matchups. Where do I think I've got the favorable matchups? He feels like it's Alshon Jeffrey. The extra guy comes off the right side, so he's got to get that football up, and he puts it in the spot for Alshon Jeffrey to make the play. It's a back shoulder fade, and very successful. Got a big touchdown to get this game going, but it was his recognition of the blitz and where the pressure was coming from. That decision led to that touchdown.
Yeah, and he took a big hit there. Also, the first game this year for an Eagles quarterback with no interceptions and didn't take a sack. Ike Reese, what are some of the things maybe Jalen has to work on a little more?
Well, first, just to add on to what Mike said there, you got to be impressed with his toughness standing in the pocket and delivering that throw to Alshon. I mean, that's a big-time throw, and he took a big-time hit to be able to deliver that throw. So that certainly is impressive. He took a number of hits in this game, and while it's admirable that he was able to keep getting up off the ground and showing that type of toughness, it's not something you want your quarterback to have to endure week in and week out. And as he continues to play, he's going to realize that you're going to want to get rid of that football at times on schedule. And I thought there were times Sunday where he either held the ball or even escaped the pocket a little premature as opposed to allowing some of these routes to develop. None of this is unexpected for a rookie making his first start. I don't believe it to be alarming, but it gives him something to look at the film and know that where he can grow as a quarterback as he continues to play, because he's going to continue to see different coverages and blitzes alike from the defenses as he continues to gain experience. He also needs to know that there's room to grow there, and that's encouraging for him. Did a lot of good things in this game, but there's also some areas of growth that you like to see this week versus the Cardinals.
Yeah, I tell you what though, Ike, he was pressured 14 times and there were no negative plays on those pressures. That is impressive. But this Cardinals defense, they are blitz happy. They're going to come after him just like the number one defense in the NFL, the Saints. So let's check out enemy intel here with Greg Cosell on that Arizona D.
The Arizona Cardinals defense is a challenging one to face. First of all, they play a lot of man coverage. Now, we'll see if they do that against Jalen Hurts. That's a question. But they do show a lot of pressure concepts, and they're very multiple, and they're very creative. And your pass protection has to be really smart and aware. Now, we're going to start with this first play, and what you immediately need to see is the pressure front. There's 7 defenders on the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of speed there. There's no true defensive lineman, big body there. They're all quick, fast players. Now what they're going to do here is they're going to end up rushing 2 defensive backs off the edge. One of them, Buda Baker, is part of the 7-man front. The second is Byron Murphy, who's lined up over the slot receiver and does not appear to be a blitzer. That's the great part of this scheme. And what they do is they actually drop out 3 defenders. So this actually is a 4-man pressure with 2 defensive backs rushing. It's what we call a zone exchange pressure because they're actually playing cover 3 behind this. Now, no one blocks Murphy. He comes clean off the edge and sacks Russell Wilson. A great tactical concept. So what I want to do now is go to the next series in this game. This was overtime. And what you're going to see here is the exact same front look, a 7-man pressure front. And what the Cardinals are going to do is the exact same thing. They will drop 3 defenders out, so it's only a 4-man rush. Now, Russell Wilson here, he thinks he's going to beat this with a quick throw. But Isaiah Simmons, one of the defenders who drops out in this cover 3 look, gets underneath the throw so quickly and makes the interception. Now, I believe in this game against the Eagles, with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, that Isaiah Simmons, one of the best athletes on the field, will be an important part of the Cardinals' defense. He's played more and more snaps with each week. He's become an increasingly important part of what they do. He plays in nickel, sometimes he plays in base. He's a great athlete, and we'll see how much of a factor he is. But the key thing here is the Cards can be very creative and innovative with their schemes. So this will be a challenge for the Eagles' offensive line and for Jalen Hurts in his second NFL start.
All right, Doug Peterson obviously came up with a great game plan for Jalen Hurts, accentuating the things he does well and he's comfortable with. And a lot of people, Mike Quick, they're saying, oh, well, now that they've seen that on tape, the Cardinals, they're going to be more prepared. But the Saints had a spy on Jalen Hurts sometimes, and they still couldn't stop him. What do you think they're going to have to change up a little bit against the Cardinals?
I don't think you change up a whole lot, guys. I think it was a really great game plan. I think there was a lot of variety in the game plan. And just like the Saints, the Cardinals are going to come after them. So those fast-flowing defenses, what do you want to do? You want misdirection. You want the screen game. You want the RPOs. You want the quarterback design runs. All of the things that we saw in that game, I think that's the way that you attack the same style of defense. They're going to bring smaller bodies on the field many times when they want to pressure so that they have more speed. But again, I think the speed of Jalen Hurts will outmatch that defense, and it really needs to be a very similar type of game plan.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, your new official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery. Pick up your Eagles Fast Play ticket today. And welcome back to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. And how about that Eagles defense against the Saints? They sacked Taysom Hill 5 times, they hit him 12 times, and they got turnovers. So Ike Reese, what impressed you the most about the defense?
Well, as usual, when this defense typically plays well as a unit, John and Mike, it starts up front. And that's where it started last week versus the Saints. You mentioned the sacks. You talk about the big forced fumble that Josh Sweat was able to get on Taysom Hill late in that game to really seal the victory for the Eagles. I just thought the defensive line just did a phenomenal job, not only in the passing game, but also in the running game. And I know the Saints averaged 4.8 yards per carry, but I like the fact that Taysom Hill wasn't a huge factor in the running game as he typically is. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, the fact that they're able to constantly bring pressure and disrupt the quarterback, these are the things that the Eagles defense is going to have to do moving forward, particularly against a quarterback like Kyler Murray. It's going to start up front with the depth that they have on the defensive line. The rotation that they're able to bring in keeps those guys fresh for 4 quarters. And again, when the defense as a unit plays well, it's usually because those guys up front are leading the charge.
Well, that's exactly right. It all begins up front, but I was so impressed with the secondary and the way they were able to hold things together. Guys, for a large portion of that game, like John said, they're playing with only one of their starters in the secondary. Early in the game, Avonte Maddox goes out. Then Rodney McLeod goes out. You've got Big Play Slay who goes out. You've got a guy who comes in Kayvon Seymour, who was only in the building for 10 days, but they were still able to hold it together on the back end. I thought that secondary did a fantastic job. Yeah, you had a couple of reserve safeties that were able to come in, but Jalen Mills ended up playing cornerback. And you have to take your hat off to the way the secondary were able to hold up, but it all begins up front, and Ike was exactly right. The defensive front, they played extremely well.
Yeah, and it's going to be a challenge for that banged-up secondary going against the Cardinals offense. You're going to see a lot of RPOs. They're going to run out of the pistol. So with more on the Cards offense, here's Enemy Intel with Greg Cosell.
This week, the Eagles will face a real challenge with the Arizona Cardinals passing game because of all their injuries in the secondary. And when you're injured in the secondary and you have to face DeAndre Hopkins, that could become a bit of an issue. Now, Hopkins is clearly one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's really good against man or zone. He's as complete a receiver as there is. Now, we're going to start against man coverage. Now, keep in mind that the Cardinals also have concepts that help against man coverage. And this is a great example. This is actually a principle that's been associated with the air raid offense for a long time. And we know that Cliff Kingsbury's background is air raid. This is the mesh concept, and they run it quite a bit. So here you're going to have Hopkins working a shallow cross along with Dan Arnold, the tight end. So it's mirrored shallow crosses. That's what mesh is. And it's very difficult when you're playing man-to-man coverage because there's a lot of traffic in a small area. And what happens here is the corner can't get through all the traffic, and Hopkins is open with a lot of room to run after the catch. So what really should be an 8 or 9 or 10 yard gain turns into a big, explosive 60-yard gain. And that's what can happen in mesh versus man coverage. You can lose Hopkins and give him a lot of room to run after the catch. Now, as I mentioned, Hopkins is a really good receiver who understands the details and the nuances of route running. So here what you're going to get is motion by Christian Kirk across the formation. Now, the Cards don't use a lot of motion, but we saw some last week as well. And when they would bring a receiver across the formation and he'd run a vertical route down the sideline. And here Kirk does that, and that lifts the corner to that side of the field. It clears him out. Now, Hopkins does a really good job here. This is a nuance that I'm talking about, because what does he do? He stems inside, and then he will break outside. And that stem inside is really important, because the underneath defender figures that he's not going to be to his side of the field. So when Hopkins breaks outside, he has room on the out route. Really good job by Hopkins of route running, understanding how to create space for himself on the out route, and a really nice throw by Kyler Murray. And Murray can throw the ball very well. Now, as I said, Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the game. What is one of the most fascinating elements to this game is how the Eagles choose to play in the secondary. Until last week, when the injuries hit, they'd been a very man-heavy defense. Will that be the case again? If it is, look for the matchup against DeAndre Hopkins. It should be an intriguing one.
All right, yeah, the Eagles are going to have to watch out for DeAndre Hopkins, but also Kyler Murray and his speed. He is faster than Taysom Hill. Not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but Kyler probably the second fastest quarterback in the NFL. So, Ike Reese, what can they learn from having faced Taysom Hill this past week?
Well, John, Mike, anytime you're facing mobile quarterbacks, you want to try to corral them, right? You want to try to keep them from escaping the pocket either to their left or their right, and you want them to step up in the pocket. And having gone against Taysom Hill this past week, it should help the Eagles out in their game planning for Kyler Murray when you talk about the athletic similarities of both quarterbacks. Just go back last week to the Saints game, and you're going to see here where Jim Schwartz does a nice job of drawing up a pressure package where he's going to have his two defensive tackles drop back at the snap of the ball. But the key to this pressure is you're going to get outside pressure from Nicole Roby-Coleman and Jalen Mills. Now, these pressure packages are designed to keep the quarterback in the pocket and force them to step up where they're a little more uncomfortable. Just like Taysom Hill is here. When he's ready to get rid of the football, there's someone in the throwing lane. The pressure gets to him on the outside. It forces a quick, hard throw to Alvin Kamara, and Duke Riley's able to pick this pass off. And when you apply this to this week's game plan package against Kyler Murray, I would expect to see similar pressure packages as this one they used against Taysom Hill last week. The Eagles will try to keep him in the pocket and force him up in the middle to that defensive line, much like they did last week versus New Orleans.
It is second down and 10. Three receivers all on the far side of the field. This time he slips the ball off inside, and it's Sanders breaking free. He's at the 40, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Miles Sanders!
You're not going to catch him.
82 yards, 82 yards.
Wow.
That was a regular inside zone. They've been playing over the top the whole time, letting the linebackers hit certain gaps. But I think the front side linebacker hit the wrong gap, and I just took it out the front. And Zach had a hell of a block, made one guy miss, and to the house I go.
Well, always great to hear from the players themselves to break down these plays. Great stuff there from Miles Sanders, obviously on the breakdown, but also on the 82-yard touchdown run this past week against New Orleans. And that play got me thinking just about this run game overall here with the Eagles. And I think if you go back over Doug Peterson's tenure here in Philadelphia, one of my favorite parts of the offense has been the creativity and multiplicity of the run game. And what do I mean when I say multiplicity? I think when you look at the wide scope of offenses in the NFL, a lot of offenses kind of major in zone runs or they major in gap schemes. But with the Eagles, you get the whole gamut of the run offense. You've got inside zone, outside zone on the zone blocking side. You've got power and counter, traps and whams, downhill runs with the gap scheme side. And then you've got the misdirection element. When you add in a guy like Jalen Hurts, you've got the quarterback run element. And that really kind of opened things up a little bit more for the Eagles in this game against New Orleans. Very first play of the game, we've got quarterback power. On fourth down, you've got Jalen Hurts working downhill. We saw quarterback draw, quarterback sweep, really trying to open things up here using the quarterback. And again, this goes back to the overall mindset of the Eagles coaching staff. And you give a lot of credit to Jeff Stoutland, to Deuce Staley, those guys that put together the run game on a weekly basis. Now, the other part of adding the quarterback that can run into the mix, the option run game really can be taken to another level. And I thought we saw that really in a really fun kind of two-play sequence here in the second half against New Orleans, because what you have here in the backfield is Miles Sanders lined up next to Jalen Hurts, and you've got a receiver behind them in Quez Watkins. This is a triple option look. And what do I mean by triple option? Well, it's just how it sounds. There are three potential options to carry the football on this play. The first is Miles Sanders. Jalen Hurts can decide if he wants to hand this ball off to the running back next to him, and he's going to read a defender to make that decision. If the defender crashes down, well, now he's going to keep the ball. If not, then I'm going to hand the ball off to Miles Sanders. If he decides to keep the ball, Jalen Hurts can keep it himself, and he's the second option, or he can pitch it to that receiver in the backfield in Quez Watkins. So you've got 1, 2, 3 options here for Jalen Hurts. Now, he hands this ball off to Miles Sanders, and he goes forward for a couple of yards. Fast forward to a little bit later in the game. What do? They come back in that same triple option set. This time, you've got Greg Ward in the backfield alongside Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders. Once again, Jalen Hurts gets into the mesh point there with Miles. This time, he decides to keep it, and here he's going to pitch it back to Greg Ward. At least that's what the defense thinks, because instead of it going to Greg Ward, what do the Eagles do? They run a perfect complement off the triple option. This is going to be a reverse, going back the other way to Jalen Reagor, the rookie first-round pick. He goes for 19 yards thanks to some really well-executed blocks at the second level. Great creativity here from the Eagles. A few plays later, they punch it into the end zone and take the lead for good. Just an awesome use of triple option to set up a big play, a gadget run play, going back the other way. This is a great example of the creativity and the multiplicity of the Eagles run game, using everybody on the field, trying to get the ball into different guys' hands. I really loved what we saw from the Eagles on the ground against New Orleans. We'll see if that can continue this week against Arizona, but just keep in mind, this is one of the most multiple run games in the NFL. It's been a staple of Doug Peterson during his time here in Philadelphia.
Hey, welcome back to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. And just remember one thing about the Eagles going out to face this Cardinals defense. Before they beat the Giants, the Cardinals defense was giving up over 30 points a game in the previous 6 games, and they had lost 4 of 5. So I don't think the Cardinals are as good as they started out this season. Join the PhiladelphiaEagles.com kickoff show at 3:20 and enjoy Eagles-Cardinals. Birds going for 2 straight wins. Thanks for watching, everybody. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, your new official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery. Pick up your Eagles Fast Play ticket today.